my child, pause with me for a moment. Just breathe. I see the weight you've been carrying, the quiet that settled in places where words used to flow freely. I know you felt a distance, a weariness you couldn't explain, and perhaps wondered if I noticed the silence that gathered around your heart. There is something important I need to show you about this season you've walked through. It's a truth I saw unfolding even when you felt lost in the stillness. This conversation is for now, because something is stirring within you, a gentle shift that marks a new moment. I want to reveal what I have been doing in the unseen places, what I have been speaking even when you heard nothing. Stay with me. There is a different way to understand the quiet, a deeper meaning to the stillness than you could perceive on your own. I want to share this with you now. My heart perceives a change in the way you open yourself to me, my child. It has been some time since you spoke with the same freedom you once had. Inside you, there is a hush now, a silent weight you haven't been able to describe. You haven't lost your trust in me entirely, but you have stopped reaching out in the way you used to. It feels as though your inner being began to draw inward, a silent folding, like a quiet closing without a sound. There was no sudden break, just a slow turning inward. You didn't mean for this to happen. Life's steady current quietly tired your spirit. And somewhere along your path, stillness felt a safer haven than true openness. You have kept much within, without knowing how to unburden yourself. There were things you wished to share with me, but the words were elusive. Not because you doubted me, but because your own inner voice felt heavy, unsure, and spent, unable to form the thoughts. So you shared fewer words with me, and your quiet conversations grew less frequent. You ceased needing a surge of feeling to prompt your speaking with me. And then, at some point, you began to ask yourself if I had noticed your quiet state had taken root. What you didn't know, what you could not have known, is that I did not turn my attention from you, not even for a breath. I was present. Even when my presence felt distant, when you hardly noticed me, even when you doubted if I still held concern for the part of you that felt weak or joyless or unable to express itself anymore. While your voice grew quiet, mine did not. I was with you in every silent moment. I heard the words left unspoken, and I felt the burden resting beneath your calm outward self. This period of quietness you've navigated is not a sign of failure. It is not a step backward. It is not a pause in progress. It is a calling you didn't know you were answering. I understand this quiet time was difficult, my child. I saw the times you doubted your own path. You may have believed your faith had lessened, that your commitment was insufficient, that I had withdrawn because your fervor had diminished. But the reality is far kinder. What you have been living through is not separation. It is a gentle revealing, the kind that occurs when an inner self is cleared of its clamor and gradually learns to rely on me again, without needing outward display. There is a holiness in the part of you that no longer needs to demonstrate its worth. You have reached a state that seems vacant, but is truly prepared for expansion, because now, after a long time, there is space within you for something fresh to emerge. Space not occupied by effort or obligation. A calm quiet, not by your design, but because you lack the energy to keep filling that inner space on your own. That sort of quiet might seem like an absence, but I perceive it as releasing. You did not push me away. You simply lacked the words to bring me what you couldn't articulate. And I do not require you to understand everything perfectly. I never have. I simply need you to allow my nearness. And in your own manner, by staying present, By continuing forward even without the words you once used, you have granted me that allowance. I watched you close your eyes in silence. I watched you take deep breaths instead of speaking. I watched you place your hand over your chest as if to steady your heart. I was present through it all, and in my sight those were prayers. You may not have known it, but they were indeed prayers. I do not gauge your bond with me by the frequency of your words. I gauge it by how often you permit me to remain near. And even in your quiet state, you have permitted me to remain. That holds more significance than you can grasp, my child. Now in this moment, I wish to ease this weight from you, my cherished child. You are not required to reclaim a past version of yourself to feel close to me once more. You do not need to pursue intense emotions or discover perfect words for prayer. You do not need to recount mistakes or map out every step that led you to this point. What you require is inner calm, not the sort that dulls feeling, but the sort that accepts, the sort that doesn't require answers to feel at ease, the sort that trusts I am near even when no feeling is present. A subtle transformation has been unfolding beneath your quiet exterior. You have learned to exist with uncertainty without completely yielding. You have remained soft-hearted even when disappointment arrived. You have stayed close to me even when your emotions didn't align, and that holds deep value. You may not perceive the result yet, but I do. I see your inner base growing more solid. I see a quiet resilience taking shape within you. I see a new form of strength in you, not the noisy, forceful kind, but the stable, fixed kind. The kind that remains firm when emotions change. The kind that will bear you into the future with a steadiness you didn't know you possessed. I want you to understand that I have been speaking with you even in your quiet times, my child. Not through booming words, not through visions, simply by being present. I have sat near you while your mind circled its thoughts. I have held the challenges you couldn't overcome. I have heard the soft concerns hidden by your calm. I wasn't waiting for you to end the quiet. I was sharing it with you. And now as you start to feel my presence once more, not in a grand way, but softly, I want you to trust what is developing. It doesn't need to appear as it did previously. You are not going back to your former self. You are becoming someone even more authentic, more grounded, more profoundly connected to me than before. Allow this quiet period to be the space where something fresh starts, and let it be sufficient for this moment that you are here, and so am I. Let us step into what lies ahead together, without haste. There is no need to grasp every detail. Simply stay with me. That is my only request. Your presence, even without words, is entirely sufficient, my child. What you perceived as distance, I saw as a calling. What you perceived as a break in connection, I saw as depth being built. You were never as distant from me as you imagined, but I understand your belief. The quiet felt unfamiliar initially. It felt as though something was absent. When you searched for strong feelings and found none, when you sought words for expression and none came easily, an inner voice didn't shout accusations but softly suggested, "Your bond is lessening. You no longer care. He has likely overlooked you." But now I want to make this clear to you, my beloved child. That inner voice was not my voice. I do not lead you through fear. I do not use shame to move you. I do not step back when you are silent or unsure. That is not my way. I do not abandon those I hold dear just because words fail them. If I did, I would have left ages ago. But I stayed close. And I have been gently whispering against those untrue ideas, waiting for your spirit to soften enough to hear what is real. And the reality is, your worth was never connected to the volume of your words. My closeness to you my beloved child, was never built on the intensity of your feelings or the circumstances around you. Perhaps you thought being near me meant constant strong feelings, but I measured it by your quiet trust in my presence, even when you sensed nothing or had nothing to offer. You haven't let me down by simply being human. Your difficulties don't alarm me. Your quiet times don't puzzle me. I don't need noise from you to be near. I only need what is genuine in you. And even when you couldn't find words for what was happening, your genuineness was clear because you didn't pretend. You simply remained in the state of not knowing. That quiet act of remaining was a form of trust. Over time, my precious one, you absorbed many notions about what true reliance on me looks like, and most of those left you worn out. You were taught that striving hard was the same as devotion, that strong feelings meant you were right with me, that showing emotion was a sign of spiritual success. So, when those things lessened, when your efforts weren't steady, when your strong feelings faded, when your emotions felt closed off, you believed our bond was weakening. But I never stated those actions or feelings were requirements. What if genuine trust during this period resembled something much less obvious? What if trust was simply being present, even when you sensed nothing at all? What if it was choosing not to turn away, even when a part of you longed to vanish? What if it was just a soft breath calling my name, a quiet longing for me to still be close? That kind of quiet trust reaches me deeply. That kind of devotion shows its strength, not in bursts of feeling, but in simply lasting. My cherished child, you are not spiritually broken. You are spiritually uncovered, and I can work with that. In fact, that is where I do my finest work. When all the external coverings have vanished, and only your genuine self remains, released from effort, without needing to gain approval from anyone, myself included. This is where I begin to build again. I start with the quiet parts you thought didn't matter, the parts you overlooked, the parts that felt weary, confused, and uncertain. I don't need your former energy to return before I draw near. I don't need your yearning to be loud. I just need your quiet willingness. And even if you cannot voice it verbally, I am aware when it resides gently within your spirit. That is enough. So stop judging your connection to me by the volume of your prayers. Stop comparing this time to the periods that came before. You are not moving backward. You are being refined. And the stillness that once felt like my absence is becoming the place where truth can finally settle. Truth not built on your actions, but on my presence. You are not required to demonstrate anything at this time, not to me, nor to yourself. I am already certain of your value. Let that truth begin to gently loosen the untruths that tried to settle in your quietness. There is no need to contend with all of them simultaneously. Just observe them, identify them, and then permit my voice to resonate more strongly than they do, not through volume, but with a quietness that penetrates further than any sound ever might. Let this be the start of something different. It is not a regression to the past state, but the gradual, tender commencement of the way things were always intended. It happened gradually, my child. A few small disappointments you told yourself didn't matter. Some requests that weren't answered in ways you expected, leaving you unsure how to process it. A moment when you shared your open heart and it was misunderstood. There was another instance when you felt profound pain, yet it went unseen, even by those nearest to you. Each one felt manageable on its own, but together they began to teach you something you never intended to learn, that expressing your heart wasn't safe. And slowly, without realizing it, you began to withdraw your spirit inward, not out of turning away from me, but as a way to shelter yourself. It was not due to a cessation of your love for me, but because you were uncertain how to navigate the moments where my presence felt remote. You didn't want to hold me responsible, but you couldn't pretend either. Thus, quietness served as a form of compromise, a means to stay near, without needing to articulate through the hurt. I understood that. You have experienced enough life to understand that not all challenges possess straightforward solutions. And while your trust in me didn't vanish, your ability to connect with me became delicate. You were unwilling to chance exposing your heart again, only to encounter that familiar ache, the ache of anticipation, of feeling unheard, of offering everything and being unsure of its effect. You still believed I was good. You still believed I was near. I never saw that as wrong, because what I see, what I have always seen, is that your quietness wasn't avoiding me. It was sorrow. And sorrow is not disobedience. It is just heavy. My beloved, you have been carrying more than you allowed yourself to admit. You have stayed strong for too long. You have tried to keep moving forward without truly tending to the hurts beneath your ability to cope. Your heart retained the memory, and your soul, guided by its own understanding, became quiet as a means of preservation. That quietness was not a flaw. It was a sign. A signal that something required profound mending, residing well below your external conduct. A sign that you didn't need to do more. You needed my nearness. You were not required to exert greater effort for me. You needed instead to rest in my embrace. And I remained prepared throughout. I don't see you as someone who needs to perform or be fixed by your own efforts. I never asked you to conceal what wounded you. I never asked you to pretend you had peace. I never told you to just be tough and move on. My request was for you to bring the hurting parts to me, even if the most you could do was simply be present with them. I am not disappointed that you have struggled. Your reluctance to extend trust once more does not catch me by surprise. I know exactly where it began. I was present during the initial instance when someone disregarded your suffering. I was present when you revealed something sensitive and received no reply. I was present during the times you reached out and found no response. These moments, though they didn't feel catastrophic then, created small breaks within you. Over time, they began to color the way you perceived your own being, my cherished one, and even how you perceived me. Now I invite you to allow me to revisit those places alongside you, not to force you to relive them, not to bring you condemnation, but to bring healing to what was left unattended. I wish to return alongside you to the moments that silenced your expression. I long to gently touch the areas of your memory you sealed away because you felt you had to manage on your own. You do not need to maintain a facade of strength any longer. I never asked you to. Your stillness was not a turning away from me. It was a way you endured, and I honor the deep fortitude it took to keep going when every part of you wanted to cease. I witnessed the bravery required to greet each morning, to face the world, to stand by others when no one truly stood by your own heart. But my beloved, I wish more for you than mere survival. I desire to see you made whole again. I want you to find your way back to speaking your truth, but only when you feel secure, without any pressure. I want you to welcome your emotions, but only when you feel safe enough to trust, not when you feel you must earn acceptance. I long for you to breathe easily, to find rest without needing to earn it, to open yourself without apprehension. And understand this, my child. I never required you to handle your pain perfectly. I only ever needed you to let me be present with you in it. Therefore, if you are willing, I will join you in the spaces where your expression first lessened. I will join you in the still times between events. I will join you where the brightness seemed to lessen and you began to create barriers. You do not have to dismantle them alone. Simply permit one small gap, just loosen one entry point. There is no need for haste, no heavy weight to bear, only my presence alongside you. And renewal starts afresh, not with noise or strenuous striving, but with that single, quiet, courageous choice to stay present in the calm and welcome me to be there with you. There are subtle signs that something within you is shifting. You might not have recognized them consciously yet, but they are truly present. Soft whispers, small signals, perhaps a breath that feels slightly less strained than previously. A period during your day when your thoughts felt a little lighter. An evening when you drifted off to sleep without that pressing weight upon your spirit. It does not appear as a sudden dramatic change. It does not sound like a grand announcement. But I observe the gentle stirrings inside you, and I desire for you to notice them as well, my precious child. Inner mending seldom arrives with loud pronouncements. It comes in soft murmurs, in modest steps returning to your true self, in brief decisions to remain open for just a little longer, to yield instead of hardening, to observe instead of becoming unfeeling. And that is precisely what has been happening within you. Gradually, quietly, consistently. You have not been faltering. You have been healing. What you might perceive as unevenness, I perceive as bravery. You have taken uncertain steps ahead. Some days felt empty. Some days you wished to vanish once more. But you did not. You stayed. You stayed receptive even when it felt unproductive or weak. That is not frailty, my beloved one. That is resilience, the sort that develops in a deep, private space, the sort that receives no outward praise. But I see it plainly. You are beginning to perceive loveliness again, even if only in brief moments. You linger a moment longer when light falls through a pane. You hear a tune and sense something awaken within. You discover a desire to express gratitude, not because you feel obligated, but because something inside you knows you navigated another day, and I was present with you through it. These are indicators, not merely of improved mood, but of your spirit reawakening. The stillness that once felt so oppressive is no longer your sole mode of existence. Other tones are starting to emerge, tones of tenderness, of interest, and of calm expectation. You are not compelling them into being. They are ascending from deep inside you. That is how you recognize their truth, my cherished child. You simply granted me entry. And now inner mending is performing its natural work, deepening below the surface. Pain remains, yes, and uncertainties persist. There are still evenings when the stillness feels longer than you desire. But even during those times, something has shifted. Your spirit is not closed off. It is observing, anticipating, receiving. And I am communicating not with volume, not with requirements, but with a gentleness your heart has learned to perceive again. You're becoming aware of what no longer belongs. You sense it when something attempts to draw you back to paths you are no longer meant to walk. You feel that pushback, not because you have regressed, but because your spirit is stirring. You are starting to grasp what depletes your vitality. You are identifying what once made you feel unfeeling. And gradually, without needing to articulate it, you are making different decisions. Not flawlessly, but with sincerity. These are not insignificant things, my child. These are the initial indications of new vitality appearing. You have inquired of me, what if I never feel as I once did? And the reality is, you are not intended to. You are not returning to who you were before. You are becoming someone entirely fresh, someone more authentic, someone more settled, someone who does not require noise to sense vitality, someone who relies on inner calm more than seeking validation through action. And stillness is what I am nurturing within you presently. You do not need to protect it. You do not need to manage it. Simply observe it, my beloved one. Allow it to catch you unexpectedly. Let it disrupt your familiar patterns. Let it ease your pace when you feel the old impulse to hurry or to demonstrate worth. When your body tenses from habit, pause. When your thoughts begin to rush, turn back to me. You are no longer struggling against yourself. You are no longer isolated in your stillness. You are being renewed. The gradual return to simply being here is the proof. Being here with me, being here with yourself, being here with others. Not as something you outwardly show, but something you inwardly inhabit. You will start to observe that your reactions are slower, that you can remain with unease a little longer without needing to flee it, that you feel less compelled to excuse your need for personal space, that you no longer fear being quiet in a shared area, because your stillness is no longer a source of embarrassment. It is a source of power. My child, you have stayed with me, listening to the quiet movement within you. This willingness to simply be present, even without words, is the truest expression of your heart's devotion. Receive my next word now, my precious one.